Hey everyone, author Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer here of fictioncourses.com, and I wanted to share some more tips on how you can make mental adjustments to stay in the flow of your writing when you're in a project, but a situation comes up, a medical emergency, you find yourself in a position of being a caregiver or needing to provide, that support to family or friends during a situation. So I've been through a number of these in my lifetime, honestly, from the time even before I entered adulthood, but certainly since then. And the most recent one was, I've shared this before, with my cousin, who on a Friday night, we got the call that she had gone in to the emergency room. They found a mass, and by Saturday, late Friday night, they had her transferred to a hospital that, through a series of events, she ended up 4.5 hours away from us. And so from Friday night to Saturday night, by Saturday night, we were in her hospital room, my mother and I, and we picked up my aunt, and we made it up there. Whenever we got that call, I just had that sense, when things happen with family, we tend to drop everything, my mom and I, and we're primary caregivers for a lot of people in our family. Just over the years, that's been our role. And so I knew that was coming. I knew there was big changes coming, and I began getting myself together immediately, just shifting to, that we have this family situation and the emotions with that, but then also, because I've been through so many of these and trying to keep myself together, I trained myself mentally of, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to prepare for this? And so I started packing, started putting things together that I knew I would need. So that's the first tip I want to talk to you about, is packing. And there's a balance to it. You don't want to overpack and you don't want to underpack. So for me, I have a great backpack that I got in 2012 whenever I was going to Washington, D.C. for my National Museum of the American Indian Artisan Leadership Program. And that backpack, honestly, I got it at Walmart. It wasn't that expensive, and I thought it would only last me a few years. And here we are, 12 years later, and that thing is still clicking. So it's got the compartments that I need to not only organize my things, but remind me what I need to take. So my side pockets, that's where my computer charger goes. That's where my phone charger goes. And if I'm going to take my iPad or my Kindle, I put those chargers in there. So number one, always make sure you have your charger. That's something that we kind of take for granted, but it's going to be the number one thing that you're going to want to remember to pack, and that's your phone charger. I recommend you get an extra battery pack charger to put in your purse or put in your backpack or put in your vehicle and keep that charged up. I keep one in my purse. I travel with it because I just never know when I'm going to end up in a hospital room, in a waiting room, and need to charge my phone. And a lot of times there's plugs available, but sometimes there aren't. And just having a battery pack ensures I always have a charging cable and a way to charge my phone, because if nothing else, I can manage email and write via dictation, is how I write anyway, is on my phone. So I can write and still keep on top of what I'm doing. So when you're packing, make sure you pack your phone and phone charger and device chargers. I recommend you take your laptop. So typically, when an emergency comes up, you just, your thought is grab whatever you have to and just rush out the door, and without really thinking through what would be good to take. And with my cousin going all the way 4.5 hours away, I knew there was a potential that we would be there in at least an entire week. And so I made sure I packed enough clothes, and I knew I could do laundry too. That's something else. Like when you think about packing and overpacking, clothes, you do want to take, some clean clothes and take some changes of clothes, but I give that less priority to making sure I have my devices. I have ways that I can still write, that I can still work while I'm away from home. So know that you can typically do laundry at a facility. Pack you some healthy snacks. That's good. You're going to be eating out a lot, but try to take some good healthy snacks to keep you going, keep your brain fuel going. Because if you go without food and without water for, one, you can't go without water for 3 days, but if you go really without eating, without sleep, and without drinking your brain physically, it literally shuts down and you can't make decisions. You can't, and when you're in a caregiving situation, being able to make decisions is so important, but you won't be able to write. You won't be able to, and it's okay to take a break from writing during that season. I'm not saying you must write during an emergency, but if there is an opportunity or you are on a deadline or it's not as critical as maybe you thought it was going to be, it turns out it's a lesser degree, you want to keep yourself in good condition to be able to write. So when you pack you some snacks, pack you some things to take care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. So writing for me sometimes in a crisis is a way of taking care of myself. So staying up with my work and staying up with whatever project I was in the middle of can help whenever I'm caregiving, because it gives me a relief from the emergency situation that we're in and lets me come back into it thinking a little clearly, maybe a little better emotionally. So one of the things I like to pack is my notebook, my spiral notebook for doing morning pages. And I've talked about doing morning pages. I'm looking at doing a mini course actually on morning pages, because it's become such a significant part of my writing life. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure and let me know. But I typically take a spiral notebook, make sure I have pens so that I can at least do my morning pages and be able to process what's going on and all. Again, not that I do it every time or every morning, but I like to have those options. So the danger with all of this is you don't want to overpack. So if you are going to be in a hotel, you're going to be in a hospital, or you're going to be staying at someone else's house, maybe for a time, spending the night somewhere, you don't want to be lugging around, 3 or 4 suitcases and snack bags and backpacks and a purse and all of that. So you don't want to load yourself down too much. Know that there are grocery stores typically wherever you're going. There are helps and supports. There's, you can always make a run to Walmart. We made several runs to Walmart to pick up things that we didn't have. So typically, don't overpack too much to where you're loaded down and that begins to become a drain on you, especially if you're going from location to location. So I recommend you have a good rolling suitcase, one of the spinner suitcases that is also qualified to take on an airplane, because your emergency may take you on a flight. So having a good travel suitcase that you can pack a lot of stuff, but it's also really compact and it's just a carry-on, something you can put in the overhead, and then having a good backpack or a good messenger bag. I absolutely love my backpack because, again, not only does it hold my laptop, my iPad, my charging cables, my morning pages, perhaps a book to read. I typically don't pack too much reading material. I recommend you go with a Kindle or read on your phone. But of course, taking a book is always inspiring and can help you with your writing situation. So not packing, not overpacking, finding that balance, and just having good luggage and be used to traveling that way, so that when an emergency comes up, go ahead and take that little bit of extra time. Like if you need to get to the hospital immediately, you just got to jump in your car and go. But if you've got an extra couple of minutes or an hour, think through what would be helpful to pack if you're sitting in the waiting room for 8 hours. Like what would help you in that time to stay, just mentally, just some mental, keep you in a good place mentally, so that if you needed to do some writing or wanted to do some writing, you have those options and you don't find yourself sitting there with a dead phone and no laptop, and you would really like to express some of your thoughts and emotions, maybe write a poem, and so you don't want to find yourself just sitting there with nothing. Be sure and have some earbuds. I always recommend that. A friend of mine, she had to go sit in an emergency room for several hours with her mom. It wasn't a life and death situation. So it was an urgent situation, but it wasn't life and death. But she had to sit there for several hours with her mom. Her mom was sleeping, before they released her. And so she put on her earbuds and put some white noise on. So that this is your other tip is, have your earbuds, be able to listen to some white noise. So if you are just sitting there and you want to write, you have your laptop, or you want to dictate on your computer or dictate on your phone, you have a different device that you can play some white noise in your earbuds. That's really helps with all the noise. And even if there's not a lot of noise, just beeping machines or just the quiet, and there's just an ambiance with being in a hospital that is not real conducive for creativity, I found. So if you can put on some music or just put on some white noise, that's really helpful to help you get into the flow of where you were at with your story and being able to work through that. So I have a couple more tips for you. I'm going to go ahead and stop because I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I'll continue sharing tips because, again, going through crisis and being a caregiver is something that we as a family have faced many times, and I want to be able to share things that will hopefully help you if you ever find yourself in that situation. So the last thing I'll just end with this tip, third tip here, is just make lots of notes. You may not be able to write, you may not be able to write in your story world, you may not be able to focus on that, but make yourself lots and lots of notes. If ideas come, or you're just really needing to express some things, or even if you're wanting to capture what's going on around you that you might want to write about later. So when you're in a situation like that and you're not being able to think, and you're just honestly, you're not going to remember a lot because you're in a crisis. So you may not be able to pull those things up. They may be lost. So you're not going to have full memory of all of the events because of the trauma and because of the fatigue and all. So make yourself notes in the moment. And the way I recommend doing that is dictating them. So dictating just real quick. Don't worry about if your dictation function is not transcribing your words very well or whatever. Just pull up the notes app on your phone and pull up your dictation function and do your notes that way, and just put notes in there so that you have those to at least some. It's like scribbling, you have at least those scribble notes to come back to later when you're past the crisis and you're going back to your writing project, or even back to the hotel that night and you want to sit down and do some writing. So those are my tips there. I will share, I'm actually out here going to catch a little bit of dictation. I have a project, and I have my headset mic with my windscreen that just came in this week, so I'm excited to give this a try and see how it does. And I have my story notes printed out. So if you are in a crisis, there's a bonus tip for you. Print out your story notes. So being on a physical device, your laptop, may not be possible or may not be comfortable. Have your physical, go back to the paper and print it out. And I know a lot of you authors do that anyway. You print out to edit your pieces and all. So again, before you run out the door, think, can you print off your story notes or print off your piece that you're working on, so that you can then take it to your phone and work on it via dictation, or whatever method might work for you if you have an app that you're working in. But if you've got time to print off some things that would help you, be sure and take just a few minutes to think through what you're doing, the situation that you're going to be in, and what would be good to pack and what you might want to not pack so that you don't get overloaded. But I find it's typically better to take more if possible, so that I have options for what I need to do in terms of work and writing and keeping myself going and keeping myself healthy while being a caregiver to others. So I hope that was helpful for you all. If you're in a situation of caregiving, my heart and prayers go out to you. I know it's a difficult season. These are seasons though, and you can look to them coming to a close at some point. So I hope the best for you. I hope this is helpful. Let me know, and I'll continue to share these types of tips for you. Take care.